Captain Jake Morrison stared at the blinking red light on his command console. In 30 years of space travel, he had never seen an emergency signal like this one. The quantum burst transmission was coming from deep space, somewhere beyond the outer rim territories where no human ship had ever traveled. "Dr. Carter, get up here now," Jake called over the ship's communication system. The research vessel New Horizon was small, with only 12 crew members, but Dr. Lisa Carter was the best xenobiologist in the Earth Defense Force. If anyone could make sense of an alien transmission, it would be her. Lisa rushed onto the bridge, her blonde hair messy from sleep. She had been working late in the lab, studying samples from their last planetary survey. "What's the situation, Captain?" "We're getting a transmission from coordinates that shouldn't have any intelligent life. The signal is stronger than anything we've ever recorded, and it's aimed directly at Earth." Jake pointed to the navigation screen. "Someone out there knows exactly where we come from." Lisa sat down at the communications station and began working on the signal. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic controls, adjusting frequencies, and running the transmission through every translation program the ship carried. Most alien languages took weeks to decode, but this signal seemed different. It carried universal mathematical patterns that suggested the sender wanted to be understood quickly. "Captain, this is incredible," Lisa said, her voice filled with excitement and worry. "The signal contains multiple redundant translation matrices. Whoever sent this has been studying human language patterns for years. They know how we communicate." Jake felt cold fear run down his spine. The idea that aliens had been watching Earth without humanity knowing was terrifying. "Can you decode it?" "Already working on it. The base language appears to be from a species called the Quilarians. I'm getting fragments now. Something about danger, a request for help." Lisa's face went pale as more of the message became clear. "Captain, you need to hear this." She activated the main speakers, and a voice filled the bridge. The words were clearly alien, but the ship's computer provided an English translation in a calm, mechanical tone that made the desperate message even more frightening. "People of Earth, this is Ambassador Zenthka of the Quilarian Confederacy. We have never spoken to your species before, but we know of your existence. We know that you come from a world that our scientists classify as impossible for intelligent life. We know that your planet has shaped you into something different from the rest of the galaxy." Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. The galaxy had classifications for Earth. The message continued. "We are calling to you now because we have nowhere else to turn. Our civilization, along with 43 others, faces complete extinction. An enemy has come from the dark spaces between galaxies, and they do not fight as civilized beings fight. They are called the Vaktar Swarm, and they consume entire worlds." The transmission paused, filled with static. When the voice returned, it carried pure terror. "The Vaktar do not want territory or resources. They want to turn every living planet into breeding grounds for their offspring. They use weapons that strip atmospheres from worlds. They release biological agents that change entire ecosystems into toxic environments where only their kind can survive. They create creatures specifically designed to hunt down and kill every form of intelligent life they encounter." Lisa's hands shook as she recorded every word. The implications were staggering. An enemy that could strip atmospheres and reshape entire planets was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined facing. "We have tried to fight them with our combined fleets," the message continued. "The Galactic Council sent our greatest military forces against the first Vaktar invasion. 47 star systems have fallen. Billions of lives have been consumed. Our weapons cannot penetrate their biological ships. Our tactics, designed for civilized warfare between rational beings, are useless against creatures that see all life as food." Jake activated the ship's emergency protocols, sending an immediate priority message back to Earth, Whatever this threat was, Earth's government needed to know about it immediately. "We have studied your species from a distance," Ambassador Zenthka's voice continued. "Your planet Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Most of the galaxy believes that no intelligent species could possibly evolve on such a hostile planet. Constant natural disasters, predatory life forms, extreme weather patterns, and atmospheric conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes." Lisa looked at Jake with wide eyes. "They've been watching us. They know about Earth's environment. But you not only survived," the transmission went on, "you thrived. You became the dominant species on a planet that produces nothing but survivors. You developed technology not through peaceful cooperation, but through constant warfare and competition. You learned to fight not just other intelligent beings, but your own environment every single day." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake realized where this message was leading, and it filled him with both pride and dread. The Quillarian Confederacy has never asked another species for military assistance. We have always believed that conflicts should be resolved through diplomacy and minimal force. But the Vaktar cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with, and cannot be defeated by conventional means. Ambassador Zenthka's voice broke slightly, showing emotion that the translation software couldn't fully capture. "We are offering you everything we have. Complete access to our technology, which is centuries ahead of your current capabilities. Star charts that will show you the location of every inhabited system in this galaxy. Resources and materials that will allow your species to expand beyond your current limitations. We offer all of this in exchange for one thing." The pause seemed to last forever. "We need you to fight the Vaktar as only Deathworlders can fight. We need you to abandon the rules of civilized warfare and show these creatures what it means to face an enemy that evolved on a world that breeds warriors. We know that your species has the capacity for the kind of warfare that civilized beings cannot even imagine. We know because we have studied your history." Lisa's face was completely white now. The alien ambassador was asking humanity to wage the kind of total war that Earth's various nations had moved beyond centuries ago. "We have seen recordings of your world wars, where entire nations committed their complete populations to warfare. We have studied your military doctrine of total victory through complete destruction of enemy capabilities. We have observed how your species responds when faced with existential threats. You do not fight to achieve political goals or territorial gains. You fight to eliminate threats completely and permanently." Jake felt his mouth go dry. The aliens weren't just asking for help. They were asking humanity to become something that most civilized species would consider monsters. "The Vaktar will reach your solar system within 10 of your years. This is not just our war anymore. But we believe that if any species in this galaxy can develop the methods necessary to stop them, it is yours. We believe this because you are the only species that learned to survive on a world that actively tried to kill you every day." The transmission began to fade, but Ambassador Zenthka's final words came through clearly. "We offer you everything. We have because we know that only Deathworlders can fight monsters. Please, people of Earth, help us. Help the galaxy. Show us what your impossible world taught you about survival." The bridge fell completely silent as the transmission ended. Jake and Lisa sat staring at each other, both understanding that they had just heard a message that would change human history forever. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed," Jake ordered. "And send a priority alert to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention from the highest levels of government." As the New Horizon changed course toward home, both officers knew that humanity was about to face a choice that would define their species' role in the galaxy. The question wasn't whether they could fight the kind of war the aliens were asking for. The question was whether they should. The emergency alert from the New Horizon reached Earth Defense Command at 0347 hours Greenwich Standard Time. Within 6 hours, every major world leader was in an encrypted video conference that would determine humanity's future. President Karine Taylor sat at the head of the polished steel table in the Pentagon's deepest bunker, surrounded by generals, admirals, and intelligence directors from every nation on Earth. General Mike Rodriguez opened his folder and looked around the table. As head of Marine Corps Strategic Command, he had seen plenty of classified threats, but nothing like this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing a situation that makes every previous conflict in human history look like a playground fight. Admiral Roy Bennett activated the holographic display in the center of the table. The three-dimensional star map showed the Quilorian territories, with red zones marking systems that had already fallen to the Vactar swarm. The red areas covered nearly a quarter of the displayed galaxy. The aliens weren't lying about the scope of this threat, Admiral Bennett said. Our deep space sensors have confirmed massive energy signatures moving through the outer rim. Something big is out there, and it's heading in our general direction. Colonel Amy Walsh stood up, her special operations uniform bearing decorations from conflicts most people didn't know had happened. I've spent the last 18 hours analyzing the combat data the Quilorians transmitted along with their plea for help. The enemy they're describing doesn't fight like anything we've ever encountered. She pressed a button, and the holographic display changed to show recordings of Vactar attacks. The images were disturbing even for hardened military officers. Creatures that looked like a cross between insects and machines swarmed over planetary surfaces while massive biological ships rained down substances that turned green worlds into gray wastelands within hours. Traditional galactic warfare appears to follow strict rules, Colonel Walsh continued. Battles are fought between military forces in designated areas. Civilian populations are evacuated or protected. Infrastructure is preserved when possible. The attacking force typically wants to capture resources, not destroy them completely. President Taylor leaned forward. But that's not what we're seeing here. No, ma'am. The Vactar don't want to capture anything. They want to consume everything. They turn entire planets into breeding grounds for their species. Every attack follows the same pattern: atmospheric bombardment with biological agents, followed by ground assault with creatures specifically designed to hunt down survivors. Commander Pete Jackson from Naval Intelligence had been quiet until now. He stood and activated another display showing tactical analyses. The civilized species of the galaxy have been fighting this enemy for 3 years. They've lost every major engagement. Their problem isn't technology or numbers. Their problem is that they're fighting by rules the enemy doesn't follow. General Rodriguez nodded grimly. The Quilorians and their allies keep trying to minimize casualties and preserve their moral principles. They're fighting a defensive war against an enemy that has no interest in anything except complete extermination. What does that mean for us? President Taylor asked. Colonel Walsh answered. It means they want us to fight the kind of war that civilized species can't bring themselves to fight. They want us to abandon every rule of warfare that the galaxy considers sacred. The room fell silent as everyone understood what that meant. Earth had spent centuries moving away from total warfare, developing international laws and treaties that limited how conflicts could be fought. The aliens were asking humanity to throw all of that away. Commander Jackson brought up another display. I've been analyzing Vactar biology based on the samples the Quilorians provided. These creatures are silicon-based life forms with a hive mind intelligence. They reproduce by consuming organic matter and converting it into more of themselves. Every planet they take doesn't just become unusable for other life forms. It becomes a factory for producing more Vactar. Admiral Bennett studied the biological data. So every day we wait, they get stronger. Exponentially stronger, Commander. Jackson confirmed. Based on their current expansion rate, they'll have consumed enough worlds to launch an assault on Earth within 8 years, maybe less. President Taylor looked around the table at the faces of people who had devoted their lives to protecting humanity. What are our options? General Rodriguez opened another folder. We have 3 choices. First, we can ignore the Quillarian plea and hope that some other species finds a way to stop the Vactar before they reach us. Our analysts give this option a 12% chance of success. Second option? The President asked. We can attempt to help the Quillarians using conventional warfare tactics similar to what they've already tried. We provide them with human military advisors and some of our more advanced weapons, but we fight according to established galactic rules of engagement. Our analysts give this option a 30% chance of success. Colonel Walsh spoke up. The third option is what they're actually asking for. We wage total war against the Vactar using every method at our disposal. We treat this as an extinction-level threat and respond accordingly. And what does that mean, exactly? President Taylor asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Admiral Bennett answered. It means we develop weapons specifically designed to commit genocide against an entire species. It means we target not just their military forces, but their breeding grounds, their food sources, and their ability to reproduce. It means we fight to achieve complete extermination of the enemy. The room was quiet for a long moment. Everyone present understood that they were discussing crossing lines that humanity had promised never to cross again. General Rodriguez continued his briefing. The Quillarians have offered us technology that's centuries ahead of our current capabilities. Faster-than-light communication, energy weapons, advanced materials, and manufacturing techniques that would transform our civilization. In exchange, they want us to do what they can't bring themselves to do. Commander Jackson brought up one final display. There's something else we need to consider. The Vactar have been avoiding Earth's sector of space. Our analysis suggests this isn't accidental. They're saving us for last. Why would they do that? President Taylor asked. Because Earth is perfect for their needs. Our planet has more biodiversity than anywhere else in the known galaxy. The variety of life forms and ecosystems would provide them with genetic material to create more specialized hunter creatures than they've ever had before. They're not avoiding us out of fear. They're saving the best for last. The implications hit everyone at the same time. Earth wasn't just another potential target. It was the Vactar's ultimate prize. Colonel Walsh stood again. If we're going to fight this war, we need to understand what we're really being asked to do. The Quillarians don't want us to defeat the Vactar. They want us to make them extinct. They want us to develop methods of warfare so effective and so brutal that we completely eliminate the threat. Admiral Bennett looked at the star charts showing Vactar expansion. The question is whether we're willing to become the kind of species that can wage that kind of war. President Taylor stood up, and everyone in the room came to attention. She had made decisions that affected millions of lives, but never anything like this. How long do we have to decide? General Rodriguez checked his notes. The Quillarians need an answer within 72 hours. If we agree to help them, they'll begin transmitting their technology immediately. If we refuse, they'll attempt to evacuate as many of their people as possible before the next Vactar assault. The President looked around the table one more time. I want detailed analysis from every department within 24 hours. Worst-case scenarios, best-case scenarios, and everything in between. I want to know exactly what we're agreeing to if we say yes. As the meeting ended and the various commanders left to prepare their reports, President Taylor remained in the bunker, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. Somewhere out there, an enemy was consuming entire civilizations, and the survivors were asking humanity to become something that civilized species feared. The question wasn't whether humanity could fight such a war. The question was what humanity would become if they did. 3 months after President Taylor's decision to help the Quilarians, Admiral Tony Clark stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, watching his fleet prepare for humanity's first interstellar war. The ship was completely different from anything Earth had built before. Quilarian technology had transformed human warships into something that would have been impossible just months earlier. Admiral, we're receiving the final intelligence report from the Kepler 442 system, reported Captain Alex Turner from the communications station. Alex had volunteered to lead the Special Forces unit that would spearhead the ground assault. His team consisted of soldiers who had trained specifically for warfare in hostile environments that would kill most other species. Admiral Clark studied the tactical display. The Kepler 442 system had been home to 12 million Quilarians before. The Vaktar arrived. Intelligence reports suggested that less than 50,000 civilians remained alive, hiding in underground shelters while the enemy turned their world into a breeding ground. Dr. Cooper, what's the status of our biological weapons? Admiral Clark asked. Dr. Ryan Cooper looked up from his workstation, his face showing the strain of 3 months spent developing weapons that violated every treaty Earth had ever signed. The viral packages are ready for deployment, Admiral. We've created 3 different biological agents specifically designed to target Vaktar physiology. The doctor activated his display, showing microscopic images of the weapons his team had developed. The first agent attacks their silicon-based cellular structure, causing rapid breakdown of their exoskeletons. The second targets their hive mind communication system, disrupting the quantum connections between individual creatures. The third is designed to consume the organic compounds they use to fuel their biological ships. Major Susan Price stepped forward. As ground operations commander, she would be leading the human forces that would fight on the planet's surface. Doctor, how effective will these weapons be in the toxic atmosphere the Vaktar have created? That's the advantage of our approach. Major, Earth's environment taught us to develop biology that can survive in conditions that would kill most other species. Our weapons are designed to work better in hostile environments, not worse. Admiral Clark nodded. This was exactly why the Quilarians had asked for human help. Other species developed weapons for clean, controlled environments. Humans developed weapons that worked in the worst possible conditions. All ships report ready for quantum jump, announced Lieutenant Commander Beth Wilson from the navigation station. The human fleet consisted of 27 vessels, each equipped with weapons that the civilized galaxy would consider barbaric. Begin. The assault. Admiral Clark ordered. The fleet emerged from quantum space directly above the Vaktar-controlled planet. The scene below was horrifying even for soldiers who had trained for this moment. What had once been a green world covered with Quilarian cities was now a gray wasteland dotted with massive biological structures that pulsed with sickly light. Confirmed Vaktar fleet positions, reported the tactical officer. 18 bioships. In orbit. Estimated crew of 40,000 creatures per ship. Admiral Clark had studied every previous battle the galaxy had fought against the Vaktar. Every civilized species had started by attempting to communicate, demanding surrender, or offering terms for withdrawal. The Vaktar had responded to these civilized approaches by releasing more biological weapons. Fire all weapons, Admiral Clark ordered without any attempt at communication. The human fleet opened fire with weapons that had been specifically designed to cause maximum damage to biological systems. Energy beams that disrupted organic molecular bonds tore through Vaktar bioships. Projectile weapons carrying engineered viruses penetrated the enemy hulls and began spreading through their internal systems. The Vaktar response was immediate and vicious. Their bioships launched swarms of hunter creatures toward the human fleet, while firing streams of biological matter designed to strip the hulls from enemy vessels. But human ships had been built to withstand the kind of environmental hazards that Earth produced naturally. Acid storms, radiation bombardment, and toxic atmospheric conditions were things that human technology was specifically designed to survive. Enemy bioships are showing signs of internal breakdown, reported the tactical officer. The viral weapons are spreading faster than their biological systems can adapt. Captain Turner activated the communication system. Admiral, this is Ground Team 1. We're ready for planetary assault. Proceed with landing operations. Admiral Clark responded. Unlike previous galactic attempts to fight the Vactar, the human ground assault began with something that shocked the few Quilarian observers: the complete bombardment of the planets. Surface with biological weapons designed to kill everything the Vactar had created. Major Price led her Marines through an atmosphere that would have killed unprotected members of most species within minutes. The Vactar had filled the air with toxins that attacked nervous systems and dissolved organic tissue. But human soldiers wore environmental suits designed to operate in conditions similar to Venus or the deep ocean trenches of Earth. Contact with enemy ground forces, Major Price reported over the communication system. Beginning engagement. The battle that followed demonstrated why Earth was classified as a death world. Human soldiers fought effectively in an environment that the Vactar had specifically designed to be lethal to organic life. They used the toxic landscape as cover, turning the enemy's own environmental weapons against them. Captain Turner's Special Forces team infiltrated one of the massive biological structures that served as a Vactar command center. The interior was filled with creatures that looked like nightmares, connected to each other through organic cables that pulsed with information. This is their hive mind nexus, Turner reported. The creatures are all connected to a central intelligence that coordinates their actions. Dr. Cooper's voice came through the communication system from his position aboard the Defender. Captain, our analysis suggests that their collective intelligence has a critical weakness. They cannot understand the concept of individual sacrifice for group survival. Every creature is programmed to preserve itself as part of the larger organism. Turner understood immediately. Prepare for final assault. All units, implement Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was something that no civilized species would have developed. It involved using human soldiers as living weapons, turning their willingness to sacrifice themselves into a tactical advantage that the Vactar hive mind could not comprehend or counter. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the Vactar presence in the Kepler 442 system. Every bioship was destroyed, every ground creature eliminated, and every biological structure reduced to harmless organic matter. For the first time in galactic history, a Vactar invasion had been not just defeated, but completely erased. Admiral Clark stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed no remaining enemy signatures. Dr. Cooper confirmed the elimination of all Vactar biological agents. Confirmed, Admiral. The viral weapons have eliminated every trace of their presence. The planet's atmosphere is already beginning to return to normal levels. Within 6 months, it should be safe for Quilarian resettlement. The few Quilarian observers who had witnessed the battle transmitted their reports back to the Confederacy with a mixture of gratitude and terror. They had asked for salvation, and humanity had delivered it in a way that demonstrated the vast difference between civilized warfare and the methods that Deathworlders used to solve problems. Captain Turner's final report summed up the engagement. Mission accomplished. Enemy presence eliminated with 0 survivors, awaiting orders for next target. As the human fleet prepared to move to the next Vactar-controlled system, Admiral Clark realized that humanity had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They had demonstrated to the galaxy that complete elimination of an enemy was not only possible, but could be accomplished with terrifying efficiency. The question was no longer whether humans could fight the kind of war that civilized species couldn't imagine. The question was what the galaxy would think of the species that could. Senator Paul Andrews sat in the central chamber of the Galactic Council Station, surrounded by representatives from 47 different species. The massive circular room had been designed to promote peaceful discussion and diplomatic solutions. Today, it felt like a courtroom where humanity was on trial. High Chancellor Veltar, a tall being with blue-gray skin and large black eyes, stood at the center podium. The Chancellor belonged to the Zephian species, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. His voice carried the weight of centuries of peaceful tradition. The emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in session, Chancellor Veltar announced. We are here to address the actions of the human species in their recent military operations against the Vaktar swarm. Senator Andrews looked around the chamber at faces that showed fear, disgust, and confusion. News of humanity's complete destruction of the Vaktar forces in 3-star systems had spread throughout the galaxy within days. The reactions had been immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Ambassador Zenthka, the Quilarian who had originally begged for human help, sat in the front row. The small herbivorous being could barely look at Senator Andrews. 3 months ago, Zenthka had called humans the galaxy's only hope. Now he seemed terrified of what he had unleashed. Chancellor Veltar activated the chamber's holographic display. Images from the human assault on Kepler 442 filled the air above the assembled delegates. The footage showed human weapons reducing Vaktar bioships to scattered molecules within minutes, followed by ground operations that left no trace of enemy presence. The species known as humans have committed what can only be described as systematic genocide, Chancellor Veltar stated. They have developed biological weapons specifically designed to exterminate another intelligent species. They have refused all opportunities for negotiation or prisoner exchange. Most disturbing of all, they have demonstrated a capacity for total warfare that threatens the very foundation of civilized society. Representative Korthma from the Defensive Alliance of Peaceful Worlds stood up. His species had evolved from small prey animals and had developed one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy through cooperation and mutual aid. The humans claim they were asked to help defend against the Vaktar threat. But what we have witnessed is not defense. It is the complete annihilation of a species that might have been reasoned with, given enough time and effort. Senator Andrews requested permission to speak. Chancellor Veltar nodded reluctantly. Honorable representatives, Andrews began, I understand your concerns about human military methods. But I must remind this council that every civilized species in this galaxy had 3 years to find a peaceful solution to the Vaktar threat. 47 star systems fell during those 3 years. Billions of lives were lost while the galaxy attempted to negotiate with creatures that view all other life as food. Representative Sil Neth from the Crystal Consortium activated her translation device. Her crystalline body flickered with patterns of light that indicated deep emotional distress. Senator Andrews, the methods your species employed go beyond military necessity. You developed weapons that ensure no possibility of survival for the enemy. You refused to take prisoners. You made no attempt to preserve non-combatant Vaktar, if such individuals existed. Dr. Helen Foster, who had accompanied Senator Andrews as an expert on xenopsychology, stood up in the observer section. Chancellor Veltar granted her permission to address the council. Representatives, I believe there is a fundamental misunderstanding about human military doctrine, Dr. Foster said. When humans identify a threat as existential, they respond with methods designed to permanently eliminate that threat. This is not cruelty or bloodthirstiness. This is how a species survives on a world that produces constant existential challenges. Ambassador Temlar from the United Peaceful Systems interrupted. Dr. Foster, your explanation reveals exactly what concerns us. Humans appear to classify any significant threat as existential. What happens when your species decides that one of our civilizations poses such a threat? The question sent a chill through the chamber. Several representatives began whispering to their advisors, and Senator Andrews could see the fear in their alien faces. Captain Dan Murphy, monitoring the proceedings from his position with Earth's Psychological Operations Division, sent a secure message to Admiral Clark aboard the Defender. The message was simple: the galaxy is more afraid of us than they ever were of the Vactar. Meanwhile, human forces continued their campaign against the remaining Vactar strongholds. Each victory was more decisive than the last, with human tactics evolving to become even more efficient at complete enemy elimination. Admiral Clark's fleet had developed new methods of warfare that could sterilize entire star systems of Vactar presence within hours. The turning point came when Ambassador Zenthka requested a private meeting with Chancellor Veltar. The Quilarian's request was broadcast throughout the council chamber, and his words shocked everyone present. Honored Chancellor, the Quilarian Confederacy formally requests that the human military operations be suspended immediately. We withdraw our original plea for assistance and ask that Earth's forces return to their home system. Senator Andrews stood up immediately. Ambassador Zenthka, are you saying that you no longer want human help against the Vactar? The small alien's voice trembled as he replied, Senator Andrews, we ask for salvation from monsters. We fear that we have instead doomed the galaxy to a new kind of monster. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives realized what had just happened. The species that had originally begged for human intervention was now asking humanity to stop. Dr. Foster activated her personal communication device and spoke directly to Earth Defense Command. This is Dr. Foster reporting from the Galactic Council. The political situation has become critical. The galaxy views our success against the Vactar as evidence that humans are potentially more dangerous than the original threat. Chancellor Veltar called for order and addressed Senator Andrews directly. The Galactic Council hereby formally requests that Earth cease all military operations beyond your home system. We acknowledge that you have successfully defended several worlds against the Vactar threat, but your methods have demonstrated capabilities that make other species uncomfortable. Senator Andrews looked around the chamber at beings who represented civilizations far older and more technologically advanced than humanity. They had asked for help, received it, and now wanted it to stop because the help had been too effective. Chancellor Veltar, I need to clarify something for this council, Andrews said. The Vactar threat has not been eliminated. Our intelligence suggests that at least 12 more star systems are under attack, and the enemy is continuing to expand toward the galactic core. Are you asking humanity to stop fighting while this threat still exists? Representative Korthma answered for the council. Senator Andrews, we are asking your species to allow us to find a more civilized solution to the remaining Vactar presence. Perhaps with additional time and resources, we can develop methods that do not require complete extermination of the enemy. Admiral Clark's response came through Senator Andrews' communication device, broadcast to the entire council chamber. His voice was calm, but carried an undertone that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Chancellor Veltar, this is Admiral Tony Clark of the Earth Defense Force. You asked Deathworlders to save you from monsters. We are doing exactly what you asked for. If you want us to stop, we will respect that decision. But understand that when the remaining Vactar forces reach the core systems, you cannot ask us for help again. The chamber fell silent as the implications of Admiral Clark's words sank in. The galaxy had asked for salvation and received it, but the price had been seeing what humanity was capable of when they abandoned civilized restraint. Chancellor Veltar's final statement would be remembered throughout galactic history. Perhaps some problems are too dangerous to solve, even when the alternative is extinction. 6 months after the final Vactar hive world burned under human plasma bombardment, Director Sam Johnson stood in his new office, overlooking the construction of Earth's first galactic embassy. The massive space station orbited Luna, serving as humanity's diplomatic headquarters for a galaxy that no longer knew what to make of them. The view from his office showed dozens of alien ships arriving daily. Not warships or exploration vessels, but cargo haulers and diplomatic transports, carrying representatives from species that had never spoken to humans before. They came seeking protection, trade agreements, and military consultation from the beings they simultaneously feared and needed. General Lisa Martinez entered the office carrying a data pad filled with the day's security reports. As head of the new Galactic Security Division, she commanded a fleet of human warships stationed throughout former Vactar territory. The other species contributed resources and intelligence, but refused to participate in actual military operations. Director, we have another situation developing in the Outer Rim, General Martinez reported. Long-range sensors have detected energy signatures consistent with a new threat. Something called the Devourer Fleet is moving toward the Centauri Alliance systems. Director Johnson turned from the window. This was the fourth major threat to emerge since the Vactar extermination. Each time the civilized species of the galaxy followed the same pattern. They attempted diplomatic contact, failed to achieve meaningful results, and then requested human intervention. What's the Centauri Alliance offering in exchange for our help? Johnson asked. Full access to their quantum manufacturing technology and mining rights to 3 uninhabited systems, Martinez replied. They're also offering to host a permanent human military base in their territory, Johnson nodded. The pattern had become predictable. Each species that requested human protection offered their most advanced technology in exchange. Earth's technological capabilities had advanced by centuries in just 6 months, not through research and development, but through desperate aliens. Trading their greatest achievements for human military protection, Ambassador Kevin Brown entered the office, followed by a small delegation of alien representatives. As Earth's chief diplomatic officer for human-alien relations, Brown spent most of his time managing requests for protection from species that refused to acknowledge humans as equals while desperately needing their military capabilities. Director Johnson, I'd like to introduce Ambassador Quill Fenn from the Democratic Trade Federation, Brown said. They have a proposal that requires your immediate attention. Ambassador Quill Fenn was a tall, thin being with pale green skin and large eyes that showed obvious nervousness. Like most herbivorous species, the Quillarian diplomat had evolved from prey animals and found human presence deeply unsettling. Director Johnson, Quill Fenn began, his voice trembling slightly. The Democratic Trade Federation formally requests human military assistance against pirates who have been raiding our shipping lanes. These criminals use weapons and tactics that our security forces cannot counter effectively. Johnson studied the alien diplomat. The request was typical of what Earth received daily. Civilized species throughout the galaxy had developed advanced technology and peaceful societies, but they had never learned to fight effectively against enemies who ignored civilized rules of engagement. Ambassador Quill Fenn, what can your Federation offer in exchange for our assistance? Johnson asked. We are prepared to share our gravitational manipulation technology and provide exclusive trading rights for rare elements found only in our territory, the alien replied. We are also willing to establish a permanent human military presence in our systems. General Martinez activated a holographic display showing the current deployment of human forces throughout the galaxy. Red markers indicated active combat zones, where human ships were engaged in operations that other species couldn't or wouldn't handle. Blue markers showed permanent human bases established in systems that paid for protection through technology transfers and resource sharing. Director, if we accept this request, we'll need to establish our 15th Regional Command Center, Martinez reported. Our forces are already stretched across 12 sectors, providing security for species that refuse to develop effective military capabilities themselves. Ambassador Brown spoke up. The real problem isn't military logistics. The real problem is political. Every time we solve a problem for one species, 3 more species request similar assistance. We're becoming the galaxy's police force by default. Johnson looked at the holographic display showing human military positions throughout known space. Earth hadn't conquered the galaxy through force of arms. They had inherited control through the simple fact that when serious threats appeared, only humans proved willing and able to eliminate them completely. President-elect Sarah Kim's voice came through the communication system from Earth. She was preparing for her inauguration as Earth's next leader, inheriting a planet that had become the center of galactic power despite never seeking that role. Director Johnson, I'm reviewing the latest reports from the Galactic Council. 17 species have formally requested human military protection in the past month. How are we handling the political implications? Ma'am, we're maintaining our policy of technological exchange for military assistance, Johnson replied. Every species that receives our protection provides advanced technology, resources, or strategic basing rights. Earth's capabilities continue to advance exponentially. Ambassador Brown activated another display showing public opinion data from across the galaxy. The political situation remains complex, Madam President-elect. Most species simultaneously fear and depend on human military power. They condemn our methods publicly while privately requesting our assistance. General Martinez highlighted several sectors on the tactical display. We're seeing a pattern where species attempt to handle threats using conventional diplomacy and limited force. When those methods fail, they request human intervention. We arrive, eliminate the threat completely, and then face criticism for being too effective. President-elect Kim's image appeared on the main display. Her face showed the weight of leading a species that had become something they never intended to be. What's the long-term projection for this situation? Director Johnson consulted his analysis reports. Current trends suggest that human military forces will be permanently stationed in over 50 star systems within 5 years. We'll be providing security for approximately 1/3 of known galactic civilization. The other species will continue to advance technologically and culturally while depending on us for protection against any serious threats. And how do they justify this arrangement to themselves? President-elect Kim asked. Ambassador Brown answered. They maintain that human methods, while effective, are morally questionable. They preserve their ethical standards by condemning our tactics while secretly being grateful for our results. They get to remain civilized because we're willing to be what they consider uncivilized. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Earth had become the galaxy's protector not through conquest or aggression, but through being the only species willing to do what needed to be done when civilization faced true threats. President-elect Kim's inaugural address would be broadcast to both Earth and the watching galaxy in just hours. Johnson had read the advance copy, and he knew it would define humanity's role for generations to come. Director Johnson, I want you to understand something, President-elect Kim said. We never asked to become the galaxy's guardians. But the universe doesn't care what we wanted. It only cares what we're capable of doing when everything else fails. As the communication ended, Johnson looked out at the alien ships arriving at the space station. Each vessel carried representatives from species that had achieved wonders of art, science, and philosophy that humans could barely comprehend. But when the darkness between stars produced something that threatened their perfect civilizations, they turned to the Deathworlders, who understood that sometimes survival required abandoning perfect principles. Lieutenant Colonel Matt Thompson, fresh from operations in the Vega sector, entered the office to deliver his final report. Director, the Harvester threat has been eliminated. All enemy vessels destroyed, no survivors. The Vegan Republic has already transmitted their gratitude and a formal request for a permanent human garrison. Johnson nodded and added another blue marker to the tactical display. Somewhere in space, human patrol ships scan for the next threat that would inevitably emerge from the vast darkness. The galaxy slept safely, protected by the very beings they could never fully trust or fully accept. The final entry in Johnson's daily log would summarize humanity's burden. They call us necessary monsters. Perhaps they're right. But at least the innocent can sleep knowing that monsters are watching for worse things in the dark.